So after almost 3 years, I'm finally getting around to editing this video for the fence train that I put in my backyard. But when I first installed this train, the tracks, I had no idea about dead rail trains. I just knew conventional trains that ran on 18 volts DC, and so I installed all this track and I fed it with 2 sources of 18 volts. And that worked pretty good for a few months, but then I started having problems with connectivity, and anybody that's ran a train knows that you get dead spots. I got tired of that. And then I found out about dead rail, which is feeding the engine from a battery pack. And then you can control this engine with a Bluetooth controller. But first I'll go back to where I started. I picked up a used Lionel Lion Chief set that ran on Bluetooth control, and I had to figure out how I was going to make this track. And this is what this is called is a reverse loop. So then you cut the pieces, you get just everything to fit right, and then I started on the wooden frame for it. There's different diameter tracks for different size loops. I would suggest going as wide as you can. This is a 027 that I started with, that's what it's called, but I would suggest going with an 072, which means 72 inches in diameter, if you can. You get far less derailments that way. So then I wanted to put a piece of wood for each length of track. So you have to do the math, decide what the angle is on each cut. And then I went ahead and I just started putting pocket holes in these things. I did use a little bit of glue, but the pocket holes is what's really holding it all together. Now I did start with pressure treated lumber, but the stuff twists so bad. Even if you get a straight piece from the lumber store, it's going to twist as it dries. So I switched over just to regular lumber. And I think, if you treat it like I'm doing here, it's going to last for years. So then I started at this point and I went to work just getting this first loop up, which there's no good way to clamp it up, so I had to do some yoga. And then I wanted to work on the braces that held these boards up. And I wanted something that would be strong enough but also adjustable so that in the future I could make adjustments as the fence moved. So if you don't already know, most miter saws have a depth limit adjustment, so you can make those like dado cuts like I did there. I'm always asked what I use on all my projects, and it's the exact same thing. It's bare cedar tone semi-transparent deck sealer. So once I had the starting point in place, I wanted to get a nice straight line and follow the fence line. Not only that, but I wanted to follow the slope of the yard and not just make a perfectly level track. It ended up being, I think, a like 2 degree, 3 degree slope, which isn't much. It does slow down the engine when it's going uphill just a little bit, not too much. So as in just about everything that I build, I was winging it here. I just had my straight line for reference, and then I was measuring against the string to the slots in those boards to make sure they were the same. So for these track support boards, I bought a bunch of 1x4s and I ripped them at whatever the width of the track is, but then what I had left over was like an inch, inch and a quarter. I screwed that to the bottom of that bigger, thicker board so that it would give it a little bit more stability. And then when I installed it, I staggered these pieces by 4 feet, so I didn't have any just butt joints that would move. The first length leaving the house that runs along the side of the fence, that is about 65 feet. And then the length that goes across the back of the yard, that's about 50 feet. Then it was time to put the last piece in, that last turnaround, that last reverse loop. And my neighbor's coming over wondering what the hell I'm doing. Clearly need a belt here. Then it was finally time to install the track, which went extremely smooth. I did have to cut some pieces, and what I've used since then is a just $4 metal cutting wheel that you get at the hardware store. Cut it off, use maybe like a little file to get the edges off, and then fit it together. So since this track is no longer energized, I had to find a switch, they're called turnouts, that would have an auto anti-derailment feature, so when the train goes through, it will push the track in the way that it is going. And that works 95% of the time. These switches are called, they're Lionel Fast Track switches, they're standard switches. I think this spring I am going to switch it over and just power the switches, not the track, but the switches themselves. When I started this project, I was not a train guy. I had a train when I was a kid, but that was about it. But I have since become a train guy. It is just, I don't know why it's so mesmerizing, but I get it now. I know why so many guys are into model trains. Mine's a little bit different. I like just sitting at my bar or sitting in the backyard and seeing that train cruise around the backyard, and I plan to take this further. I'm not exactly sure yet what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to do more. But if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. I do plan to do a video on how I convert the engines to battery pack, so keep an eye out for that. I have recorded the content, I just got to edit it. So thanks for watching, guys.